Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying time is here. That's right, we're talking the 2009 reboot of Friday the 13th on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. This is your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from the Texas version of Camp Crystal Lake. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we are dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. Now, we're going to unpack all the gory details of a Friday the 13th movie reboot with 4 different movies all wrapped up into one, in the hopes that a camper's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes that we can make at their expense. And as always, there is only one person I trust that if I'm out by the woodpile with an axe in my back, she might fucking do something about it. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How you doing, Gina?
I absolutely would risk my life and at least come out there and try to drag you to safety.
Thank you very much. You wouldn't fall into a pile by the kitchenette or just endlessly debate while shoving very well-muscled chests with somebody else.
Yeah, I would not be just getting into an alpha male fight with anybody else over who's going to do less to help anyone.
It is quite a fight, but we'll get into it. Now, Gina, I don't want to alarm you here, but we are not alone. That's right. We have a special guest this week. You may know her as a writer of note and seen her work in such places as MTV, Cosmopolitan, The Hollywood Reporter, and of course, the show that she pioneered for Nerdist, Fangirling. It's the one and the only Alisha Lutes. How you doing, Alisha?
Hello, I'm great. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful now that you are here. I'm such a tremendous fan of you and the things that you have done over the years, over at Fangirling and the various things that people that you've talked to. You've had great interviews over the years, and I took the chance. I'm like, oh, maybe she'll said yes. And then when you did, it made my heart sing. So I'm very happy to have you here.
Oh, shucks. That's really nice. I don't know what to say. Thank you. I'm glad that that you like me talking words at people and them saying nicer and better words back at me.
I think we're in the same boat with that one. So you're already coming in on top on that one. We have a tradition here at the Kill by Kill podcast, and that is to ask our guests, when was the first time you encountered a movie within the Friday the 13th franchise?
So I had to think about this a little bit because I knew you were going to ask this question. And I was like, I really had to think about it because I know that I've seen a bunch of horror films in like bits and pieces through my hands and also through running in and out of the room. And I definitely saw the first Friday the 13th. Part of it, I'm going to go with part of it, while my cousins are watching it at my grandparents' house in Vermont. And I don't know if you've ever been to Vermont. It's terrifying at night. It is covered in trees. Spooky noises abound. It was just not really copacetic for me and my general anxiety. So I think at about halfway through, maybe not even, it felt like forever. It could have been 5 minutes. I ran upstairs and did the very cool thing that all very cool teens do and hung out with the adults around the table while they drank and like talk stories.
Perhaps that was the best for your mental state at the time. Who knows? It could be very jangling to see so much of Kevin Bacon's butt in one go. But to each their own.
There's nothing wrong with Kevin Bacon's derriere. It's quite spectacular, in fact.
It's beautiful, it's round, and it's on display. It's everything we like in male nudity and Friday the 13th movies. And we just don't get enough of it in this movie, in our opinion.
Oh, so true. So true. I mean, I know this is still like, I wouldn't even call it early aughts. It's like the end of the early aughts. Like, really, you expect a little bit more, just a teensy little bit more. You got Jared Padalecki and Dick Casablancas in this movie.
Yes. And Dick, he takes off his shirt and they don't pan the camera down.
It's true nonsense. Here? The most nonsense.
This is crazy.
They're throwing away potential fans. Come on, Veronica Mars, what are we doing?
You brought me to the dance here. I want to see either Peck 1 or Peck 2 in short order, and I don't get to see either. The camera's locked onto his neck, like everyone thinks that his Adam's apple is the sexiest part of him. That's not true.
Maybe somebody that was a camera operator and that is like a neck fetishist, you know, or like a vampire, like anything's possible.
I think we may be uncovering some things, and that's great.
Listen, I've been on some sets, and you meet people that do and are all sorts of crazy things. I've been on a set where there was a pagan that worked on a set, you know, like everybody's bringing all sorts of stuff to the table.
Yes. My favorite sets is when you have one guy who's a grip who brings Cuban coffee. There always seems to be one, and that's my favorite guy.
I haven't met that guy yet.
Oh, Jesus. I don't know. I've had 3 sets where there's been a Cuban coffee guy, and that's my favorite set to be on. It's caffeinated instead of Coke focused, which I think is a much clearer decision-making drug.
I have no experience with this, except I am aware of what coffee is.
Well, see, you're almost there. It's okay. Not everyone has to be super steeped in Hollywood lore and experience to enjoy the Kill by Kill podcast. We're for noobs and for pros alike. So let's get right back into it. Who's still left alive at this point in the movie? Well, let's do a quick body count. Well, we have one bad monster hunter with very floppy hair. And then we have one camp tool with floppy hair. We have one brunette who may have come to the cabin with one floppy-haired guy, but now she's with the other floppy-haired guy, kind of playing Scooby-Doo. We got a blonde that's spoken 10 lines in the entire movie so far. I know, I counted. And a redhead that we believed was dead, but it turns out that she's been chained up inside of Jason Voorhees' bat cave that he now has for some inexplicable reason. And Lawrence.
Just say what Lawrence is. Lawrence is the black guy.
Lawrence is a black guy who we last saw trying to jerk it to a winter wear catalog. And when he saw a deer head on the wall, he turned 45 degrees away from it.
He's a modest man. He's a modest man.
That's right. He needs to focus is what it comes down to.
There's so many things like in the setup to what we're about to get into that are just absolutely absurd. Chief among them, the fact that Jared Padalecki's sister is still alive when Jason Voorhees, known killer, has been known for one thing. Killing. Like, why? Like, I understand that they're like, oh yeah, she like kind of looks like the sister or the mother or whatever, like, you know, but it's just garbage. It doesn't track.
It's not canon, for lack of a better phrase, the way he behaves and the way he has some sort of labyrinthian, cave system with booby traps and
underneath everywhere, all places, including a bus.
Yeah, and just and he's much more cunning than he's ever been in any of the prior movies, and it doesn't. You're right, it does not track at all.
No, I'm not entirely sure why Jason Voorhees is pulling a Taken on this poor woman.
Yeah, it's a little Silence of the Lambs. Like I kept every time like they had the bells ringing, I kept thinking of the scene at the end of Silence of the Lambs when they kind of faked you out and they were in the wrong house, but apparently like Buffalo Bill has this incredibly loud school bell set up in his basement, and so every time somebody rings the bell upstairs it goes off and it's this like horrendously loud noise. That's what it reminded me of. It's a little Saw, it's a little Silence of the Lambs, and I do not like it.
Yeah, I don't know what I've seen her before.
Oh wait, is she a great big fat person?
Oh God, I mean, yes, it's great at portraying evil, but also it's great at portraying evil. I don't know.
I just don't understand why there were bells there at all. Like, why were there bells there to alert her of somebody going by? Like, why would Jason want to alert her of anything? Like, wouldn't he want to, keep her on the DL and not know what's going on? And then when he comes in, like, why does she say help? Like, why wouldn't she just assume that it was him? I had so many questions for her thought process and also for his in the whole entire construction of this weird, sad gorilla palace he had underneath. the whole entire town of Crystal Lake, New Jersey.
You mentioned that he's keeping her because she reminds him of his mother, and honest to God, that is the first time that really occurred to me. That's why he kept her.
Well, just like looking at the weird pictures, because like that whole locket was so weird. And I know this is like not all part of what we were supposed to be talking about, but like, like half of it is scratched out and the other half is like this photo. It's like, does it look like, did Jason have a sister? Is she long lost? Is it the mother? Like, it's just, you're just like, oh, this person looks like her. That's all we really know. And like, all we know the connection is like at the end when she's like, say hi to mom. And you're like, oh, so it's a sister, it's a mom. Why did you think, what is, why her?
And how does she know about, his thing with his mother?
Yes.
Were they having long talks in this past 6 weeks? Because
that's the movie I want to see. Let's see a movie that's Tuesdays with Jason. And it's like every Tuesday he comes over down to her little sad, broke down nightmare palace and like tells his fucking tales. Like I would watch the shit out of that.
The thing was, I was not drowned, and Mom would not believe me. But then she blames everybody for it. This is my Jason voice.
It's turning a little bit into Bill Cosby. I just want to warn you. You are getting into Puddin' Pop territory. Got nervous.
I've tried my whole life to get into Puddin' Pop territory, but this is the really wrong time to do it.
Miss that calling.
I want the in session or in therapy version of this movie where they're down there for 6 weeks, just the two of them, just hashing it out. And I really hope that as a woman who's helped her mother in an illness, and she's preparing her mom to move, out of this life and into something else, and preparing herself for that she would be able to help Jason with that same transition, even though it's been all these years since. Also, he lives in a mansion under the ground.
I just couldn't get over the bus one. The bus one specifically, like, just blew my mind. I was like, it's coming out of a bus, a turned over bus. Why didn't somebody pick up this bus at some point? Like, when a bus goes missing, like a school bus, like somebody clearly would need to like make account for that somewhere.
I don't understand quite why Trent's family cabin has been so close to the ruins of Crystal Lake this entire time, but they've never had trouble until now.
Right.
Yes.
Why doesn't he come around before? I mean,
I know.
It's not like it was covered in dust and it was like the first time that anyone's been there in like 20 years. I mean, it looks like they go there in the winter. It looks like they go there in the summer. It looks like they go there on the weekends. So, why does he pick now to suddenly start fucking with whoever, comes to stay there?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the one thing. Trent is very annoying. By and large, it's a very good chance that his family is also very annoying. And he's also brought other very annoying people to that house. Like, why wasn't Jason compelled to kill before now? That is truly, that whole family should be dead already.
Oh no, Jason could have saved us all a lot of trouble and just killed off of Trent's, family line. We all would be in a better place as a society. Let's get back into the action here. And I'm sad to say that the action we're talking about is sexy action because we're right back into this extended sex scene.
And he does not stop talking through it. He's constantly talking through the whole thing. And
it's because her boobs are stupendous.
And
stupendous.
There's nothing wrong with talking, but he's just like, bad, bad, bad. Wow, you're so hot. Your boobs are amazing. And it's like, I mean, I really wanted to just put a pillow over his face, honest to God.
Yeah, he's like the worst NFL color commentator who just says everything he immediately sees and has nothing to add to the action. It's just like, you have breasts.
It's clear that he was like panicking too, but he he didn't know what to say. He just kept saying her boobs are great, and like got to the point where he's like, I don't know, your nipples are well formed. I don't know, like he just like gets like really technical and specific about it.
I guess the gag is that he's supposed to be like the cool rich guy, but he gets a naked lady in front of him. He turns into Jerry Lewis, he just suddenly gets super awkward for, no reason other than the plot determines it.
I just don't even know if that's what they intended. Like the whole thing just came across just so weird. Like just they just didn't they didn't even think. They were so obsessed with like pointing the camera like so close to her fucking navel you could see inside of her like stomach. Like that they didn't even consider like what dialogue needed to happen. They're like, I don't know, tits need to be flopping. Like he just needs to be like, oh yeah, movement needs to be happening. Whatever. Jason will show up soon. And everyone's gonna be fucked.
What do you want me to say? I don't know. Just say something.
They improv the whole thing.
Yeah, just say something. Say something sexy. It's like that was sexy.
It is very odd. I mean, now part of it is that the guy playing Trent has been told multiple times that he looks like Tom Cruise. And so he studied the living fuck out of Tom Cruise movies. And somewhere in his mind, he's doing an impression of Tom Cruise circa Top Gun or that movie where he's a fancy bartender. And it's just not working. There's no amount of furrowing of brows that quite makes this character leap off the screen. I mean, he's kind of good at being a dick, but also how hard is that?
You're giving him a lot of credit that I just like would not give him for what he's doing. Like Tom Cruise, like I've like, don't let Tom hear that. Like, I think he might get upset. It's it's wild.
The first time Tom has been told someone is imitating you.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's true. But like, I think his extent of his like studying up for this character was like going to a 7-Eleven on like Route 64 in New Jersey and was like, all right, that guy, pop a collar, let's do this. Like, it's so surface level.
Yeah, I feel like he read the script and said, okay, who am I playing? You're playing the asshole. Got it. I'm good.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, that's I understand this character.
They're like, whatever, this is just about that supernatural guy, so dreamy, floppy haired little, demon hunter. That's what I imagine that hopefully the whole entire set was like in my dreams.
It's just two guys on different directors' chairs on opposite sides of the set who don't want to go there first.
Usually I'm a hunk.
I'm not going
now
first.
He's a hunk. Yeah.
Too many hunks.
Too many hunks, not enough Aaron Hughes.
Too many hunks and not enough male nips. There's the problem.
And this coitus will not be interrupted, not even by Whitney, who's broken her chains and goes running towards this cabin, actually gets there. But Jason stops her just in the nick of time before she slaps that window, again, kidnapping her. He's just not a kidnapper. That's not a move of Jason Voorhees, and I don't think it makes Friday the 13th better.
Yeah, and if she doesn't want to be there, why don't you just kill her and be done with it? Like, I just don't understand. He is a known super murderer. Why wouldn't he just super murder her?
Yeah, I don't. It just has so many questions for me. The whole, if this cabin's been so close to Camp Crystal Lake, why has there never been any problems? Why is he kidnapping people? What is happening here? Why do birds suddenly appear every time that you are near? Because just like me, they want this movie to be a little bit better. And it's not going to happen in this segment. Jenna and Clay pop into the cabin during this sequence. They interrupt Lawrence's self-coitus to announce that, oh my God, there is a backwoods super murderer out there, and we've got to do something. This is when they discover that the phone lines have been cut. And Gina, I wanted to ask you, do you remember any other movie where the phone lines were cut? Now, he certainly pulled electrical cords out and stopped electricity from going to a place, but has he ever snapped a phone line before?
No, and also I this was 2009. Do they not have cell phones at this point?
Well, they all said they didn't have reception. But wait, hold on. I'm confused because I know for one thing, no reception in New Jersey is very spotty situation indeed. But I thought that they did he did call, because he calls the cops and like, you know, because it's the world's longest wait for a cop to show up ever after, you know, somebody calls and goes, there's a murderer here, you must come to the house. Like, and then they became cut like after, like the second time when he came in the house.
Okay. Yeah, we watch it in such jangled batches.
No, it's okay. I just watched. I refreshed, you know, my memory very recently.
Okay. I trust you implicitly. Well, that does explain why Officer Brack does show up a little bit later, but we will get to that. But when Trent comes down to find that Jenna and Clay are there, he immediately is not concerned at all of their reports of a raging murderer on the loose. He goes straight to accusing Jenna of, quote unquote, fucking this guy all over the woods for 8 hours. And here's the thing, okay? One sex sesh in the woods is more than enough for anybody. It's dirty, there's nowhere to clean up, and bugs. And finally, bugs.
And poison ivy.
And poison ivy.
The whole dynamic of the relationship between her and Trent then Trent and Bree, none of it makes sense. Because like, because at first you thought that he was like, Trent was with her, and then like she runs off with Jared Padalecki, and then he just is like, all right, well, Bree's here, might as well get it in. And like, that's all happening. And then to come out and be like, hey, it's not really fair that you fucked the handsome floppy hair boy. Like, what are you doing? Like, none of that makes any logical sense at all.
I feel like that there's like a lost scene of Trent just stewing because Jenna and Clay went off to wherever, and he just kind of looks over at Bree and it's like, well, I guess she'll do, and then it just cuts to the next scene.
Yeah, some real true strengthening of the female characterizations in this film.
Yeah,
well, I mean, Bree is kind of set up as she's just quietly biding her time until she gets to be murdered at Trent, which again kind of leads me to believe that none of these people were actually friends before they went on this trip. The only, and of course that's a trope in a lot of movies that doesn't usually play out very often in real life, in which one person it's pretty common for friends to have unrequited feelings for other friends, but they're not usually just waiting for the first opportunity for trouble in paradise to jump right in and take the spot of the other person's partner. And yet that happens a lot in movies, and I'm always wondering, how are these people friends up to this point? And this is the thing a lot in these movies. The dynamic is very strange between all these people. I mean, in the first couple of movies, it made sense because they were working at the camp. But then after a certain point, it was like, no, we're going to this campsite for the weekend to have a party with people we just met. And it's just, it never seems to work. The dynamic isn't there. I think the only people that really seem like they're actual friends are maybe Lawrence and Chewie.
Yes. I don't understand it. It takes just heaven and earth to get people to come down to the South Bay, to where I live from Los Angeles. Imagine getting a whole bunch of different people you don't know to go into the middle of fuck all New Jersey for the promise of don't spill beer here. That's what Trent has to offer.
It's like, come stay here and get a nice weekend, nice hot cup of class rage in my dad's hunting lodge.
Yes.
Because everybody knows someone whose dad owns a hunting lodge.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're a rich white dude, I guess there's just like tons of them. I mean, I should know better. I am from Connecticut, but unfortunately, I guess I just hung out on the wrong side of the tracks. But I just, for my own personal headcanon for this one, I just figured Trent was trying to impress Jenna or whatever, and he invited her to this cabin and then just put out a Craigslist ad for some friends. And therein lies we get Chewie, Lawrence, and fucking Bree and whatever. Like, that's the only way that their relationship makes any sense.
Yeah, I think we said before he put out one of those ads with like the little piece of paper you tear off. Free hunting.
Looking for friends.
Free hunting lodge. BYOB.
Bring your own bong in a suitcase. Yeah, it's mystifying. I don't know that we're ever going to find any answers to any of the weird conglomerations.
You never do. There's
that's not what these movies are made for.
Yeah, there's never an explanation as to why these people would agree to spend an entire weekend out in the middle of nowhere with each other.
Alicia, you say something that prompts a question in me. You say that's not what these films are made for. And yet, in 3, in 4, in 7, not in 8, not in 9, in 10, they're in space. But you have a certain amount of these movies where this is a common thread. At some point, someone at Sean S. Cunningham's production company was like, when you get a bunch of people you barely know out into a cabin in the woods, and everyone had that same common experience because they never bring up, no, that doesn't fucking happen to anyone at any time. And yet it happens time and time again in these films, to the point where now, decades later, in a remake where they could do anything they wanted, they still went back to this. In my mind, someone's promoting this as a lifestyle, and we're just not picking up on it.
I feel like maybe does it help to maybe, be kind of happy? I mean, for lack of a better word, when some of these characters get killed off? Because I think there's a reason why the hardest deaths to take are Chewie and Lawrence. And it's not just because their deaths are, as I ranted about in the last episode when it came to Chewie, their deaths are unnecessarily prolonged and cruel. It's because, they actually seem like they like each other, and they seem like believable friends and thus believable people. And I feel like if you have a bunch of no-name attractive people who the only thing they have to offer is that they're attractive and they might get naked, that it's easier to pick them off one by one. That the audience won't feel any sort of issues with morality as far as being entertained by these otherwise likable people who if not for encountering Jason Voorhees, might have gone to work with the poor or teach underprivileged children or something. I mean, Trent wasn't going to do anything useful with his life.
I would argue that's absolutely intended, like absolutely 100%. The whole reason that they even go with this premise is so that they can get a bunch of tropes of people that either society doesn't like or you just find really fucking annoying, so that either you're really, really mad when they get murdered and you want justice for them, or you're really fucking happy because it's some sort of weird cathartic release of like, I fucking hate this type of person, and look, now they're getting it. That's the whole point.
I would agree with that, but I also would say that especially at this particular age, when you're college or just out of it, you are more than likely in a group of people where there is one person you actively hate because they're dating someone you kind of like, and you are forced to hang out with them in a social situation that you did not want to. Mm-hmm. And when he comes out on the porch and announces to everyone at a party, I'm 27 and you can't touch this. And I respond, it doesn't look like anybody wants to, Jimmy. And then it's a big fucking deal because everyone's had too many hash brownies.
This is a personal story, right?
Am I talking on a podcast? I blanked out. I forgot what I was talking about. Anyways,
come back. I just got real nervous.
But you're always surrounded by people that you don't necessarily want to hang out with, but generally, like, you're an Uber away from getting out of that situation. I was
gonna say, you're not going to spend like a weekend, out in God knows where with these people, just essentially trapped with them.
That's where I think it takes something that you would go, okay, I'm fine with this, and takes it to an extraordinary place. But then again, most people don't end up being, hacked and slashed by a backwoods mutant. So there's that too.
Yeah, that's fair.
I've barely won everyone over. I'll take it as a victory.
We're still digesting that rant about Jimmy and hash browns.
Hash brownies. Hash brownies.
I told everyone to just
hash
take
browns.
one.
You're so pure. You're so pure. They were hash browns. We were having a light breakfast. And I told everyone, don't get too crazy with those hash browns. I used a lot of canola oil.
I clearly had a much less exciting youth than Patrick did.
Oh, that wasn't youth. That
he was like, that was last week.
Yeah, that was not all that long ago. So here we go. Let's get back into this.
Yeah, we still haven't even gotten to Lawrence dying. Like, we have like 3 people that have to die, so we haven't even gotten to any of the deaths, and we're 30 minutes into talking.
We're only talking about 10 minutes of this. We're trying to make weight here. So Lawrence, upon hearing that, people are in trouble, Chewie is not there, he decides, I am going to go find my friend. And in order to do that, he grabs 2 items. One is a fire poker. I'm sorry, 3 items. One is a fire poker, one is a flashlight, and the other is a walk. And when he walks around with those items, he looks like some sort of Roman centurion who needs to find his keys that he dropped.
Or like a kid who wants to dress like Captain America, but his parents forgot to buy him his costume.
Yes.
I just thought he looked like a really crafty Doctor Who companion.
I can see that. He's using what he has.
Lawrence would be a great Doctor Who companion. I really do. You know, he just has to stop jerking off at really, really random and inappropriate places, like a middle of a living room where people could walk in at any moment.
Well, the TARDIS has a lot of empty rooms that we never really see.
This is true. I definitely don't want to go down this path, though.
Come back to us when Alicia and I start a new podcast. Where would you masturbate on the TARDIS?
No. The answer is that's private.
Sounds to me like Alicia's got an answer, but she's keeping it to herself. So Lawrence enters this giant tool shed / 4-car garage and spies a spatter of blood on top of this, on the ground freezer. I don't know what you call that, where you keep your spare meat.
Yeah,
I never had one of these.
It's a meat freezer.
A freezer?
Meat freezer. I grew up in Glendale. We don't have extra meat.
It's just called a freezer, Patrick.
Okay. I don't know if it had a fancy name.
It's called, in these movies, it's called corpse storage.
Corpse storage. That's very true. But he opens it to find a lot of dead meat, but none of it is Chewie. Turns out that Chewie has been suspended from the ceiling somehow in one of Jason's patented indoor-outdoor interior decorator jobs. I'd rate this one a 3 out of 10. Not his finest moment. I want something splashier.
I don't know. I really like the kind of element of surprise of all of a sudden, so Chewie's there, just like, it's like a nice little, like mistletoe, but with murdered people.
Well, it's also playing back into Jason's ability to always predict what someone's move is going to be. Mm-hmm. So of course the person's going to check the freezer to say. Although, would you check a freezer? I mean, if you were looking for someone and you went down to the basement and there's a freezer in there, would it occur to you, hey, maybe they're dead and their body's stuffed in this freezer?
If there's glass and blood on the floor and blood on the freezer, absolutely. I grew up in the era of police television. I've watched so much Law and Order and CSI and all of the things growing up with my grandparents. I could be a detective. I'm fairly convinced I would be a great detective. I would find so many clues.
Excellent. You're on the team. I believe you. Lawrence does manage to get some licks in during this. Before he went out there, he said, "You can't handle me. I'll surprise you every time." And so we're set up with Lawrence perhaps being a person quite like the boxer from Part 8, whose name escapes me. Julius. Thank you, Gina. He's sort of set up like a Julius character where he's someone who might be able to at least go toe-to-toe with Jason for a bit. And he gets some nice licks in. He gets a fire poker in the thigh of Jason and perhaps a jab to one of his clavicles. I'm not sure. This sequence is filmed under the impression that it's an entry in the Bourne franchise. It's a lot of shaky cam.
I really like how quick and nimble Lawrence was. He was able to get in a few little beats. I would argue he probably had the longest tussle with Jason, with the exception of Penelope and his sister at the end, and I was appreciative of that, if nothing else. because they did, murder the two minorities in very quick succession, like very quickly in this movie.
Well, I mean, Jason's typically a stalk and slash surpriser. Like, he'll come in, take care of business, and disappear into the night. He's got a little bit of the Batman vampire action going. Not so much like he was in part 8. That he goes full Dracul in that one. This is he grabs a Canadian cop and pulls him into a dark alley like he's going to seduce him with secrets of the night.
Oh my. I don't know if you noticed, this is the only Friday the 13th movie I've seen in full. So I don't know any of these other nonsense notes.
He's tried wild. He's tried on a few different suits.
I know he fought Freddy Krueger. I remember everyone seeing that one my sophomore year of college.
Oh, we're getting to that one. Maybe we have to get through the whole entire Nightmare on Elm Street series first. So we'll get there eventually. Anyways. Dear. So a debate. Wait a second. Lawrence breaks out of this very expansive tool shed and makes a break for it. And Jason, who apparently has been watching some ESPN2 Lumberjack games action, picks up an axe and flings it a good 20 yards right into poor Lawrence's back. And that is a amazing throw just for anyone. I mean, that could have just clanked off his skull and he still would have, felled him. That's an amazing shot.
All those hipsters that are doing axe throwing in 2018 watching this now are so jealous of his form.
I was going to say the exact same thing. There's places you can go now to throw an axe if that's what you want to do with your life. I mean, I'm sure it's very good for the Instagrams. I'm sure each place has a super cool hashtag. But again, to not to belabor a point, but if he can throw an axe that accurately and that hard, just take the poor kid's head off with it. I mean, again, this is prolonged. It is setting up a lore for the people in the house, which is something he's never done before.
No, he's never set a trap like this before.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
It's just. It's prolonged of this poor character just wailing for help, and everybody's just standing around the house. I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? And it's just it's like this person's dying about 10 yards outside the house. One of you can go out there and drag him into the house. Here's an idea. Maybe all of you could go out there and drag him into the house.
All of you could do this together, but Bree crumples on the ground. Trent and Clay are slapping chests still. Jenna's like, we should do something. Clay's like, no, we shouldn't. That's a trap. I would not want to decide what Mexican restaurant to go to with this crew. Nevertheless, go on a rescue mission with them. At this point, no one's coming out. So he might as well take care of Lawrence.
Imagine what he's thinking. It's like, well, these fucking
his
assholes.
one humane moment where he's like, you know what? These guys are not good friends. I'm just gonna kill this guy.
Sorry.
That's fucked up.
I'm sorry, man. You squash. I didn't know that. I didn't know these people are gonna be total shitheads and wouldn't come out to help you. What kind of friends are these people?
He whispers into his ear, a la, Hail Hydra. I'm sorry, your friends are dicks. Body slam. So Lawrence gets that axe that was just sticking out of his back all the way through his chest. R.I.P.D. Lawrence. We hope that you're jerking it to a Montgomery Ward catalog in heaven.
Oh, I thought it was LL Bean.
Well, I
just assumed. I'm from New England. I can't help myself.
I think by 2009, it was probably LL Bean. I think Montgomery Ward had
I'm
folded
old.
in the economic crisis that came the year before that.
So we got some good old-fashioned backwoods ninja action here. When Trent looks out the first floor window, the camera pans up to find Jason has teleported to the second floor noiselessly.
I know, amazing that no one could hear it.
No, he is. Derek Mears is a very large man. And I don't think he could, come to your house with a 6-pack of beer noiselessly. Nevertheless, leap onto the second floor of a tin roof without making any noise. But hey, we're in a movie. What are you going to do?
Truly, Bob Fosse heard about this moment, revived himself, came to set and was like, tell me how you did that fancy footwork. I must know more.
What I want you to do is wave the machete in a semicircle, but then in close to your chest and then back out.
Oh, you know what? Now I'm just daydreaming about an interpretive dance version of Jason Voorhees' life, and it's truly all I want. Just like really like told in the way of very earnest, like sincerity of like the guys from, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like putting this on, like I see this in my mind and I want it.
And yeah, will we ever get it? Someone surprise us and comp us tickets and
we'll
probably show up.
The internet is a magical place. It is full of all sorts of things. It's wild what sort of nonsense fan fiction and bullshit becomes real, actual things you can watch.
Yes. As a person who has seen the Reanimator musical, I can attest to that. So Trent does not know that Jason's on the second floor, so he immediately heads there because underneath his old baseball glove and a porn DVD, he has a 9mm handgun. So this should go great because adding handguns to the mix always works out perfect.
Truly, every time, without fail.
Oh, yeah. He is completely incompetent. He is incompetent at being a friend. He is incompetent at sex, and he's incompetent at using a handgun. I mean, again, I get the joke. It's not particularly funny or clever that the rich, good-looking guy is a complete and useless boob. I mean, that's something that's a very common trope. And again, him just wildly waving this gun around. And admittedly, I've never shot a handgun. I don't know that you're just going to be like, just aiming it in all directions like Yosemite Sam.
That's generally frowned upon.
In the room.
Yeah. My sister's a cop. In general, that is definitely frowned upon as far as gun handling is concerned.
After him, we see Bree, who apparently has recovered from her minor meltdown where she put earmuffs on and just shouted at herself. Now she's looking out for Trent. And she manages to come upstairs and investigate a bathroom where she pulls back the shower curtain. Nothing is there, but lo and behold, Jason Voorhees is behind her. Now, somehow he has snuck into this room through a half-open window that is surrounded on both sides by antique bottles for some reason. And I was just wondering, you don't have to get too personal, but what empty bottle do you two pile up near open windows where a breeze could blow on them?
Like glass bottles?
Yes, glass bottles.
Generally glass
exclusively.
Bottles. Yeah, glass bottles are
it's the only place I keep my glass bottles.
Are frowned upon in most bathrooms. I'm pretty certain. I mean, I am not above accidentally leaving an empty shampoo bottle behind, but just random craft store bottles just lined up in my bathroom. No, I generally try to avoid that because I am very clumsy and bathrooms are wet.
Yeah, it is a terrible idea in almost every single facet, but we barely see it because once Jason grabs a hold of her, once again in that I'm going to kidnap you pose, because he covers up her mouth with his massive hand. Again, is Jason Voorhees a don't make noise while I kill you person? Because that's not really his MO either. He just kind of kills you, not let's do this quietly and for an extended period of time.
Right, which is like, why did he bother trying to lure them out with Lawrence? Just go right into the house and kill everyone. You've done it before. We know you can do it. Well, I mean, but that's the thing. It's like, has he done this before? Because
that's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, we're basing it on the earlier iteration. But is this the first time he's just gone on a mass killing spree?
Is Jason Voorhees a noob and just really good at it the second time out?
He obviously killed those people at the beginning, but I mean, again, is that the first time?
You do realize you're begging Hollywood to make a Breaking Voorhees movie now, right? don't you?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you
we
understand. You
can,
just
like,
did that.
If we had $1 for every person who told us about LeBron James producing a new Friday the 13th, it'd probably be more than our Patreon was making right now. But we know. We know. We've been told many times, and I don't know.
Is that the one that LeBron is doing? Really?
Well, I don't know. It's not. I mean, it's literally just announced that he was going to do one. I don't even know if there's actually even a script attached to it. But
the problem is, if very quickly in the legalese of this, is that Victor Miller, who wrote the original Friday the 13th, he had that script before Sean S. Cunningham, who had the title and announced it in the Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah.
To a movie called Friday the 13th. He said, this is the title. I need a movie. He goes, I have a script that's a horror movie. You could call it Friday the 13th. Why not? And so Victor Miller was never let in on the money for any of the other Friday the 13th. And so when they sued each other, Victor Miller got the rights to the title, for some reason, Friday the 13th, the domestic rights, but nothing about Jason or the hockey mask or any of the other things that you might associate with it for both domestic and international. So I don't know how LeBron is going to make anything out of this. I think it's just like someone said, Halloween's really big right now. What's another franchise? He goes, well, I've always loved Friday the 13th. Why don't they bring that back? And then someone told Variety. And that's like, this is about as far as this is going to go.
And the Halloween remake made $1 billion at the box office. So these are all coming back. They're all coming back. We're going to be doing this forever. We're going to be at a nursing home in Los Angeles and in New York. Yep. It's Friday the 13th, part 42. Patrick's going to take that long draw on his oxygen tank before going on to the next, part of the series.
Oh, just thinking about it in a rest home. I can't. We're going
to be getting that Patreon and Bitcoin.
Man, you're going to be paying for my Rascal Patreons. Pony up.
Hopefully by then Rascals will fly.
Oh,
they
God
better
willing.
Fucking fly.
Everything better be flying. So Jason picks up poor Bree and slams her into a decorative pair of antlers. Who the fuck decorated this place? Who decorates a bathroom with antlers?
It's a hunting lodge.
That's true. That's very true. Also, I'm going to make a statement as a early 30s white girl. You can get those at Anthropologie, and they're very cute hangers for your coats and also your jewelry and also scarves. I'm just saying, I liked the antlers. Of all the movies this pays many, many homages to, it did not need to pay an homage to Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Oh yeah, that's very true.
Which is what everybody always thinks of when they see someone impaled on something like antlers. Although that's not even the first horror movie to do that. Do you know which one it was?
No,
it was Salem's Lot. Salem's Lot, the TV version, was the first movie, to my knowledge, that featured someone getting impaled on deer antlers, which again is something I don't think has ever happened in real life, and yet you see that a fair amount in horror movies.
True Detective, Hannibal, also those. That's always what I think of when I see antlers and murder. I think mostly Hannibal.
Antlers suddenly became something very inexplicably creepy in the past 20 odd years.
Everyone is afraid of being picked up by a giant and being slammed into them.
Well, it is kind of funny because it is like it's like fingernails. It's like finger and toenail, basically. Like if you think about it like that, it's like a very long fingernail. And then imagine it, take that in your mind, and then think of that attacking you. Sorry.
I hadn't thought about that from now. Now I'm never going to be able to think of anything else.
You're welcome.
This ick brought to you by Alisha Lutes. So in the midst of this, Trent hears a noise and immediately assumes it is the girl that he told to leave his house, not the girl he just had sex with. He may not be operating with a full load, but just in the midst of this, we happen to see lights. So it is Jason. They're red and blue, and they're spinning about. It's Officer Brack, who has been called to the scene.
The only cop in town. He was
It's a one-cop town.
he was on duty in the morning and he's on duty at night.
Yes.
They had to take him out of dinner to come to this, and that's why it took 500 years for the one cop in town to not call any backup and take 800 years to respond to cries of murder.
Well, he may be getting a lot of cries of murder because he lives in Crystal Lake, but then again, does he? Because is this Jason Voorhees' second murderous rampage? We may never know. What I do know is this: we watched this car drive down a driveway and park in front of this house for a full minute. Riveting stuff, everyone. Great work. I'm sure everyone in the theater will be on the edge of their seat wondering, does he use the e-brake? How much gas is left in that car? We may never know. And we didn't care in the first place. Why do I watch a man park a car for a full fucking minute in a Friday the 13th movie?
In order to watch him be murdered immediately thereafter. I think he had one line in the whole movie.
Well, it's that whole like back and forth with Clay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Like this
4
weird,
lines.
weird.
Yeah, when he
basically,
contest. Clay is saying, well, I'm looking for my missing sister. Yeah, well, we can't help you. It's like, okay.
The most heartless cop. Yeah, your sister's not here. Your dead sister. Get out of here, kid.
We're not in the missing sister business.
Maybe you should try looking someplace else other than the last place she was seen alive.
That's too much sense.
Brack announces himself as a cop at the locked door, which is uncommon nowadays, but must have been all the rage in 2009. And before Jenna and Clay can actually open the door, Jason drops down from the second floor and pushes the fire poker that he took off of Lawrence straight through Brack's eye, skull, and the door itself. So close to a hashtag get bunked, but so far away. Sorry, that's the end of Officer Brack.
He was
as incompetent as every other law enforcement professional in this entire series.
We do not have a lot of great cop action in the Friday the 13th franchise. It's not really known for it. Canada Cop is as good as it gets.
Well, he clearly couldn't have been that good of a cop because here's the thing. That creepy old lady that Jared Padalecki went to first clearly knew some shit. That woman had seen some stuff. She knew about Jason. And I don't think that cop ever talked to her, because if he had, he maybe would have been a little bit more hip to the fact that there was a hockey mask wearing super killer just running around his Crystal Lake.
Well, somehow Jason's pot sales are kicking back into the local economy, and that's why no one wants to talk about it, or at least that's what this movie wants me to believe inexplicably.
Wait, really?
Yeah, there's definitely like some suggestion that the Crystal Lake's bountiful weed crops are the primary source of income in the town, because apparently it's not a summer camp for children anymore, or a model train museum. It's these pot plants, and they're on the Voorhees property, and everybody's dealing the wacky weed is, so they're turning their backs on whatever it is he's getting up to, whether it's regularly murdering people or kidnapping young women and keeping them in his underground cave system.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is that what Ben Feldman was talking about in that first movie, in the first 20 minutes, where it was a whole other movie, a whole other Friday the 13th movie, and Richie was there to get the weed? Got it.
They were there to get
with Wade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those very important people that we spent the first 20 minutes of the movie with before they all died.
Yeah, it started out as the Pineapple Express and turned into Friday the 13th.
I will ask this now. I should probably wait until the next episode when we wrap this whole thing up, but fuck it. We've got so much to talk about in that one. We might never get to this question. Is that section of this movie the best part? Is everything that happens afterwards kind of a letdown to the mini movie?
Yes.
In your minds?
Yes.
I think my favorite part of the movie is like the first minute and a half of the movie when the counselor is running away from Mrs. Voorhees.
Yeah.
And then she murders Mrs. Voorhees. That part's my favorite.
It's definitely, trying to lift pages from several different Friday the 13th movies, but it is literally 3 different movies in one. and each one is tonally different, and they don't really go together, and they all seem like sort of half-finished scripts written by various people that they all just decided to kind of clumsily stitch together, where the common thread is the sister who apparently nobody's been looking for other than Clay.
Yes.
Which is puzzling, because did nobody find the bodies of the people he did kill?
No, apparently they didn't find anything. But my real question is that well, it's not a question. This is my statement. This whole conceit is absolutely unbelievable in the year of our Lord 2009 America, where if a pretty white girl goes missing, are you kidding me? The whole fucking country knows about it, and everybody's up in arms. This is only a month after she disappeared. What are you talking about? Everybody and their mother would be on the ground looking for this girl. That's how our media system works.
No, you're absolutely right. It doesn't make any sense that when Clay shows up, everybody's really shifty about it, and nobody's interested in helping him. The cops are blowing him off and telling him, well, look anywhere else but the last place she was. And it just, the whole town has decided, well, you know what, we're gonna sweep this murder of 3 people under the rug, and a 4th person has just gone missing. We're just gonna kind of pretend none of this ever happened. And it's just, and again, it doesn't really make any sense, because it's implied that Jason is, a local character. Yeah, that's Jason Voorhees. You know how he is. No, you don't tell us how he is. We don't know if this is something he's been doing a long time, or he just became so enraged by yet another group of asshole college students showing up on his land and taking his weed that he finally just started killing them.
Yeah, at least the original franchise had the excuse that his mom was killed and he somehow resurrected. Well, let's leave that behind. But
yeah, I don't.
More people come to the remnants of Camp Crystal Lake, and then he goes, "Oh, mom tells me I have to kill this new group of people, like she killed the old group of people," and it just goes from there. This is why are these people silent? Where do you follow the money? How does this get back to, if we let people know that Jason Voorhees is actively growing pot or killing people here, I won't get my stipend this week? Like, how does this work?
Again, this is where
there might have been some dumb twist where the Voorhees family actually owns the town.
Well, this is seriously, this is where, like, I feel like my headcanon is way more fun for me and for this movie. Like, for any of this to like plausibly take place in the way in which it does, there's only one logical explanation, and that is that there's a secret underground cult in those hell tunnels that is Jason Voorhees is like the god of, and he has some sort of crazy ritualistic control over this town so that he can just casually murder and get away with it. It's the only logical solution here, I think. I think I'm very logical here.
Yeah, but then you're getting into Halloween 6, where you found out he was some sort of group, like in a cult, but you know what? Your explanation makes about as much sense as any other explanation you could possibly come up with in this movie. But yeah,
every other explanation is better than what the movie pretends to explain.
I don't get the impression that he is killing out of revenge for what happened to his mother, because again, is it supposed to be, I mean, I watched a couple of weeks ago, I've kind of forgotten some elements of it, but the scene with Mrs. Voorhees, is that supposed to be at the camp? Like,
yeah, it says 1980 Camp Crystal.
1980.
So that's supposed to be a rehash of
Friday
the
13th. Yeah.
Okay. But it's no longer an operating summer camp. It's just some sort of place where one family has a hunting lodge and a lot of weed grows there. So, what is the constant revenge he's supposed to be trying to get?
I that is a good question. Why those are questions until now?
Those are questions for Tuesdays with Voorhees.
I'm asking. They don't get. I don't know why I'm asking. They don't get answered.
No, I think we could rename the podcast that. These are questions that'll never be answered. But it's not quite as snappy as Kill by Kill, if I say so myself. So I think that brings us to that moment in time where we ask ourselves to choose our own death venture. And up for bid this time are 3 deaths: an axe through the torso, rammed into a decorative antlers in a dark bathroom, or have a fire poker shoved through your eye in the back of your skull. And so, Alisha, as our guests, I ask, which death do you choose and why?
Oh, I'm taking Officer Bracky's Hundo P all the way. It's the least amount of interaction that you have to have with Jason. You don't even have to see him. Your last dying look is not at Jason Voorhees. And for me, I think that's a win for anybody, just because you never know what happens with your brain after you die. It's unjust and it's fucked up, but it's not as fucked up as poor Lawrence having his friends watch him die. It's not as fucked up as, poor Chewie. And I just don't like Bree, so I wouldn't want to die that way. It seemed like you would suffer a lot. So I'm going with Bracky all the way.
All right. I sense a trend. Gina, what say you?
I'm actually going to go with Lawrence because I want to say that I went down fighting.
Okay.
I would hope
that's fair.
I would hope that my friends would care enough about me to maybe create a human chain that could possibly drag my dying corpse in so I could be surrounded by people who care about me as I take my last ragged dying breaths. But but on the other hand, at least I could say I got a couple hits in before checking out of this world.
Well, I've heard both of your answers, and I think they're absolutely correct. But I am going to go a different way, and I'm going to go impaled on decorative antlers.
Ugh.
Because at least in this Texas bathroom, I'm not surrounded by a bunch of inspirational word signs like in my mom's Texas bathroom. She can't have any wall that does not have a definitive statement on it. And at least here, there's some place to put your towel or, my corpse.
I'm sorry. There's just something hilarious, though, about someone being murdered in a bathroom and they collapse to the floor. And right next to them is a sign that says live, love, laugh.
Right above their heads, one says hang in there, and it immediately falls on their head. Exactly. After they fall on the ground. Yeah.
Where were you during this rewrite session? You should have been in this room.
No, I should have been. Somebody hire me to punch up your films. I'm very funny.
And so that just about does it. Before we go, let's do a few plugs. Alisha, where can people find and hear more from you?
Mostly on the internet, primarily Twitter. And if you follow me there, I apologize in advance. My handle is @Alisha Lutes. I tweet too much. I'm trying to put a lock on that. But I also host a monthly storytelling series at The Ruby here in Los Angeles. It's a intersectional feminist comedy space up on Sunset Boulevard. And the show is called The Nope Show. We're actually on hiatus until January because I have to handle some family stuff. But it's really fun. And it's just ridiculously, hilariously, horrifyingly real stories told by awesome people. And and then I'm writing all over the internet. Hollywood Reporter. I did some stuff for Cosmopolitan recently. I've got some other things in the works that I'm very excited about that hopefully I can tell you about more in the future.
All right. We will always update our audience on Twitter about your happenings from here on out.
Shucks, thanks.
Oh, no, you're doing us the favor of having funs with us with this goofy movie. Hey, Gina, where can people hear more from you on these internets?
I write about old television and movies and pop culture at my website, GinaRadcliffe.com. I have also been recently writing reviews for Alka Hollywood. I just recently reviewed The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which is fucking awesome.
It is. I reviewed that for IGN. It's so good. Sorry, I just got so excited.
Good. No. And next month, I have been informed that I will be reviewing the Kurt Russell Santa Claus movie, which I am incredibly excited about because I just love the idea that he is evidently using his own beard. And I think that's he just kept the beard from the Hateful Eight, said, fuck it, now I'm Santa Claus. All right, I'm with you. I'm with you all the way, Kurt. I will follow you
all the way in.
I will follow you into hell and back.
Oh my gosh, I wish they got Goldie Hawn to play Mrs. Claus. Oh! I'm watch
never
it.
know. There might be a drop in scene.
Oh my God, I hope. I'm going to Google everything now. I'm so excited.
And I'm also on Twitter under Porcelain72.
Do it today, people. Check it out. And of course, what about our Patreon, Jada?
We have a new patron, Kelly Houlihan. And I just wanted to say that although I mentioned him in the last episode, Benjamin White raised his pledge to $5. So that means he's going to see our very first bonus episode, which should hopefully be available by the time this episode goes live. It's going to be us talking for about an hour about Mandy. Another movie that involves someone being able to throw an axe at an impossibly fast and powerful speed.
Well, he's a lumberjack, though. Like, he's a legitimate lumberjack.
That's true, and he literally made the axe with his own hands. Even Jason does not have that level of dedication and craftsmanship.
That movie was so wild.
I cannot wait to talk about it.
Oh man.
It's a good one. People check it out. And so, of course, if you want to hear more from us, Twitter is an easy way to do it at Kill by Kill Pod. On Instagram at Kill by Kill Podcast, we have the Facebook page and group to get into more details. And so that just about does it for this week. But don't worry, the body count will continue. And so until then, for myself, for Gina, and for Alisha, bye-bye, everybody.
Toodaloo.